Welcome to episode 1 of Sort by Format, a show for people who watched the mission statement episode and felt compelled to keep watching. And if you didn't watch that, follow the link in the description, then come back to this video. That one's shorter, I promise. Each episode, I'll take a look at an era of a band's discography and talk about the ways in which you can collect all those songs on physical media so you can hold them all in your grubby little hands and play them on a pink bedazzled Philips CD boombox. This first episode is about Nine Inch Nails, who recently released their first album in 5 years. It's the soundtrack to the upcoming Tron movie, following the lineage of trans icon Wendy Carlos and French motorcycle enthusiasts Daft Punk. Nine Inch Nails started when everybody's favorite synth-pop bad boy, Trent Reznor, a guy from rural Pennsylvania, moved to Ohio. He was in a few other bands first, but in 1988 he struck it out on his own and formed Nine Inch Nails. The band initially started as a solo recording project for Reznor, a practice still carried out by black metal dweebs to this day. It didn't take long to find a handful of touring bandmates, which would be an ever-changing component of the band. In studio though, it was just Trent at this point. Part 1, Housekeeping. In the mission statement, I said I would go through some methodological and logistical stuff in individual episodes when I have actual examples to show you what I'm talking about. As it turns out, I have examples to show you what I'm talking about. Let's talk methodology real quick. I don't know what your individual goals as a music collector are. I don't know your budget, your preferred format, your approach to collecting, or where you're from. That's why I will show or tell you about various different pressings, different formats from various countries that are relatively easy to acquire and not wicked expensive, though there are exceptions to that rule. It's taken me about 2 months to make this video because I've had to keep revising the way I compile this information and what criteria I'm basing it off of, and how to represent it visually. I think I figured out a decent enough way of deciding which pressings to include in this video, and I have a flowchart for that, which I'll show you later. I use Discogs to determine median prices for a particular release. This is by no means an exact science for various reasons. One, the obvious, I might input some numbers wrong when I'm doing the math, but I do my best to double check all that. Two, Discogs, much like eBay, is an online marketplace where the average price of an object is determined by how much people have previously paid for it. Suffice to say, this does not tell us the actual value of an item, because when you leave things to the whims of Discog scalpers, the world is a worse place. These prices are subject to change. In fact, they've probably changed since I wrote this script, but I'll always include the month that I sourced the prices from. Discogs is a user-compiled database. This means the amount of unique submissions for a particular album may include duplicates, but it might also not include every pressing ever. They have guidelines to try to avoid duplicates and methods of consolidation, but again, that's mostly done by users, so it's a slower process. Whenever possible, I'll be corroborating information about these releases with Wikipedia, the band's official website, in this case the website NIN Catalog, or any other relevant fan wikis or forums. Even then, I don't own the vast majority of these releases I'm talking about, because this is a guide for myself as much as it is for you, so I can't physically verify a lot of this info. Okay, I think that's enough methodology for now. There will be other stuff I'll need to explain later on. If some of that didn't make sense yet, don't worry, it will. Let's start talking about Nine Inch Nails. Part 2, the actual video. The era of Nine Inch Nails we'll be going through in this first part spans 1989 to 1990, otherwise known as the Halo 1 through 4 era. No, not that Halo. Since the beginning, Nine Inch Nails has organized their official releases with the numerical Halo designation, which can be a blessing and a curse to collectors. Just think of it as a secondary catalog number, or its order in the canon of Nine Inch Nails albums. These are all 35 songs from the era that we'll be discussing. I've linked a playlist in the description with all the songs on it so you can see if you even want to collect all these songs, because maybe you don't, I don't know you. Big picture, we're really talking about 11 individual songs, with the other 24 being variants thereof. This could be remixes, remasters, demos, or different takes of a track. I'm going to cover all these variants because they offer different experience from the studio version. I'm not talking about bootlegs, leaks, or live versions that came out years later. These are tracks from official Halo designated releases from the time. So to break it down further, out of 35 total tracks, there are 10 studio tracks. All 10 of those have remastered versions. 13 of them are remixes, one is a demo, and one is a cover. Now, let's zoom into 1989. While Gorbachev was busy dismantling the Soviet Union for parts, and everyone else was busy playing Tetris on their Game Boy, Trent was busy releasing his debut single. Part 3, the actual songs. Okay, we're going to start off simple and progressively get more complicated. I'm going to go in a rough chronological order, so save your actually until the end. We'll get to the UK pressings, I promise. Down in It was originally released in the US as a 12-inch single through TVT Records on September 15, 1989, with the catalog number 2611 and Halo designation 1. Down in It, Skin, is the same studio version that appears on Pretty Hate Machine. So here we have our first studio track. This version was not intended for the album given its parenthetical subtitle, but the original Keith LeBlanc mix was replaced by this one produced by Adrian Sherwood. Shred is an extended version of Skin, while Singe is more sparse vocally, but instrumentally is more fleshed out. It has some orchestral flourishes and dub-sounding snares. The Nine Inch Nails wiki agrees, saying it's basically a dub mix. There's also an Indonesian cassette that was released at some point in 1989 with the same track listing as the US 12-inch. Discogs says this is unofficial, but NIN catalog basically says it's just uncommon, so I'm gonna say it's an official release until proven otherwise. Apparently cassettes didn't die out in Indonesia the way they did in the US, but yeah, this is one of those cases where because Discogs is user generated, people can change things without sources, and it can take a while for someone to correct it or verify something. Methodology note. While the Indonesian cassette is uncommon, its median Discogs price is only $13 as of September 2025, and it's the only cassette version of this album. So whenever possible, I want to mention releases for vinyl, CD, and cassette, since those are the three main physical formats people collect for. Also, all the median prices in this video are as of September 2025. Anyways. A CD version with the same tracks was released in the US sometime between 1989 and 1991, depending on what source you look at. This person on Discogs claims it couldn't have been released prior to 1991 due to an address change at TVT, but I couldn't find any corroborating evidence of that, so I'm just going to put an approximate date of early 1990 on it for sake of argument. All of these versions are pretty reasonably priced and not too hard to find. The CD averages $7 and the 12-inch averages $28. For those of you who have format preferences, you have your pick of the big three here: vinyl, CD, and cassette if you're willing to pay import fees. Halo 2, Pretty Hate Machine, released through TVT on October 20th, 1989 in the US with catalog number 2610. Wait, why is the single that was released before the album 2611 and this is 2610? Clearly just to make me mad. Moving past that, Pretty Hate Machine has 10 songs. Down in It or Skin we've seen, but now we have 9 more songs as you can see on screen. Considering this is a studio album, those are the remaining studio tracks. That means we have all 10 of those and 2 remixes so far. As with Halo 1, you have the 3 main formats released in the US. Fun fact about catalog numbers: on some releases, you'll see suffix numbers appended onto the regular catalog number depending on the format. 12-inch vinyl is a -1, CD is -2, and cassette is -4. But it's an inconsistent and imperfect system, and not everyone does it. For example, the Indonesian cassette of Down in It is 2611-2, even though it's a cassette. Pretty Hate Machine is not at all hard to find. The original vinyl pressing does go for over $100, so unless you're a diehard or a first pressing purist, don't fret, because there are plenty of more recent pressings that you can get that are much more affordable. The CD version, on the other hand, along with the cassette, is very affordable and very common. Here's my CD copy. The first song on the album is Head Like a Hole, and wow, look at that, that's our next release. Moving on to March 22nd, 1990, we have the TVT 2615-2 CD maxi single, Head Like a Hole. I hope you enjoyed the relative simplicity of 1989, because now we're entering AVGN chronologically confused territory. Unlike Down in It, Head Like a Hole doesn't actually include the studio version of the title track. Also, the track list I'm showing you on screen right now is just the American CD release. So let's cover that first. It includes 5 mixes of Head Like a Hole, including an instrumental dub mix called You Know Who You Are. It also includes 2 remixes of Terrible Lie, the second song on Pretty Hate Machine. The 2 remixes of Down in It from Halo 1 showed up here, along with a demo version. This Grayed Out song, that's a hidden track that's only ever appended onto this demo or Clay, depending on the release. It's a short soundbite from Nine Inch Nails' appearance on the show Dance Party USA. don't worry about that one. I'm not counting it as its own track. So let's take stock. So far, we have 20 tracks. 10 of them are studio tracks. That's just the entirety of Pretty Hate Machine. 9 remixes and 1 demo. The 9 remixes are the 5 Head Like a Hole, 2 Down in It, and 2 Terrible Lie remixes. And the demo is Down in It. At the same time the US CD was released, there was also a 12-inch single. This one has a different catalog number, likely because it has a different track listing. Its catalog is TVT 2614, and it omits all 3 versions of Down in It that were on the CD release. It makes sense in a way, because Down in It was only released on vinyl up to this point. Probably. Let's just say it was. It would have been redundant to add those to the 12-inch, because if someone bought the Down in It single, they might feel ripped off if the new single also has those songs and the skin mix is also just the album version. It could have been due to CDs being able to hold more music than a vinyl record, or it could be both. So if you're a CD person, unless you want all the Halos, you can pretty much skip Halo 1. If you only fucked with vinyl, then you couldn't get all these tracks because the demo of Down in It is omitted from the Head Like a Hole 12-inch and doesn't appear anywhere else on vinyl. Yet. Head Like a Hole gets a lot more complicated, but I'm going to keep going in chronological order and move on to the next release. Halo 4, Sin. Long, dub, and short. Catalog number 2617, released by TVT on October 10th, 1990. The US CD and 12-inch both have the same songs, which include 3 alternate versions of Sin, a long, a dub, and a short, as the title suggests. And the short one is actually 13 seconds longer than the studio version. And the 4th is a cover of Get Down, Make Love by Queen. The US cassette, on the other hand, only features the short version and the Queen cover. So here's where we're at. As of October 1990, tape heads are out of luck on Halo 3 and 2 mixes of Sin. And considering Down in It was only released in Indonesia on cassette, unless you could import it, you would just have to record your own cassette off of the 12-inch or the CD, if the CD did in fact come out before 1991. But it's 2025, so you can buy it on the internet, or you could just not do any of this. Part 4, Head Like a Rabbit Hole. Sure. I guess that works. On November 19th, 1990, Island Records released a limited edition 12-inch and CD of Down in It in the UK. It included the 3 tracks from the US version, but added the empathetic and sympathetic mixes of Terrible Lie, as well as the Down in It demo, with the secret dance party track appended to the end. So there you go, vinyl nerds. The demo version showed up on wax eventually, but only in the UK. And unfortunately, the UK 12-inch and CD can be kinda pricey. The US CD and 12-inch are a lot more affordable, depending on whether you have to import them or not. Also, keep in mind, if I'm talking about prices, I'm talking about USD, and I'm not taking shipping costs into consideration, because your mileage will inevitably vary with that. Island Records started releasing Pretty Hate Machine in Europe and the UK in February 1991, but thankfully that album is the same everywhere on every format. Australia also got a CD release of Pretty Hate Machine sometime around May 1991, which was put out on Interscope. Also, if you're curious, in 1990 a German CD promo was released via Island Records and TVT under the name You Get What You Deserve. This promo included the clay and copper mixes of Head Like a Hole, the shred mix of Down in It, and sympathetic mix of Terrible Lie. It doesn't have a Halo designation, and it's just a promo, but I just wanted to mention it. Okay, what does Halo 3 look like outside the US? It looks like this, at least visually, but only sometimes. On September 2nd, 1991, Island Records put out a number of versions of Head Like a Hole in the UK. They got a 12-inch, 10-inch, 7-inch, and a CD. The CD and 12-inch included the clay and copper mixes, as well as one that was never released in the US, the Opal mix, which actually features a vocal take that is unique to this mix. The 10-inch and 7-inch versions only contained clay and copper. The UK pressings featured a much more colorful album cover, which is apparently what Trent Reznor intended for the cover to be, not the cover that we got here in the US. The cover you see on screen now with the crucifix was exclusive to the UK 10-inch. The next Island release in the UK was Sin, which was released on November 4th, 1991 on CD, cassette, 7-inch, and 9-inch. For 9-inch nails, I guess? It was a novelty release. The UK CD has the same songs as the US CD and 12-inch, but they're rearranged for some reason. The UK 9-inch vinyl omits Sin Short, while the 7-inch and cassette have the same 2 tracks as the US cassette. The UK cassette, though, came in a cigarette box, which is fun. So if you got the 9-inch and the 7-inch, you'd have everything you'd get if you just bought the CD plus one song twice. On July 25th, 1992, Pretty Hate Machine was released in Japan through Interscope with a black, red, and blue obi strip for those of you who like to collect Japanese imports, or who, live in Japan. In August 1992, Australia got a CD and a cassette release of Head Like a Hole with the same cover art as the UK versions, but featured the Slate and Opal mixes in addition to the Terrible Lie Sympathetic mix. So good news, cassette collectors. At this point, all 4 Halo releases are on cassette, at the very least. The bad news is that you're missing 8 songs, and the median price on the Head Like a Hole tape is $189. Oh. Christ alive. Anyway, Japan, Australia, and Canada got CD reissues of Pretty Hate Machine in 1996, 97, and 99 respectively. Well, around those years at least. By this point, 9 Inch Nails have been off of TBT Records for several years, but that's something I'll talk about in part 2. Nothing Records, Trent's imprint on Interscope, is who put out the 1999 Canadian release of Pretty Hate Machine. At some point in the 90s or 2000s, TBT lost the rights to Pretty Hate Machine, and they would end up filing for bankruptcy in 2008. In 2005, Rykodisc had the rights and put out a standard CD reissue of Pretty Hate Machine, along with Head Like a Hole on November 22nd, 2005. When I say along with, I don't mean bundled, just at the same time. They reissued both of them. Anyway. Sometime around there, or in early 2006, a 12-inch reissue of Pretty Hate Machine followed, and at some point in 2005, Island Records would release their final pressing of Pretty Hate Machine. This time is Argentina's first pressing, 16 years after the album's original release. And before we move on, Japan got another CD reissue via Interscope on December 3rd, 2008, but this one was an SHM CD, which stands for Super High Material Compact Disc, something I had never heard of before doing this video. On November 22nd, 2010, a remastered version of Pretty Hate Machine was released. Every pressing of this contains the original album remastered with Get Down Make Love as a bonus track, which I am pretty sure is not remastered. Just want to throw that out there. This remaster was designated Halo 2R, the R being for remaster. It was released by the Bicycle Music Company and UME, depending on what pressing you get, but they're the same, just with different logos. Came out on CD and 12-inch in the US and on CD in Taiwan. The next year, in July 2011, BMC and UME reissued the original, non-remastered album on CD and 12-inch in the US, with Universal Music Group handling the European CD release. And 3 months later, Japan got another SHM CD reissue through Interscope. Then, on November 27th, 2015, BMC released the Halo 1-4 4LP box set in the US for Record Store Day Black Friday. Because that's a thing that we do, because regular Record Store Day isn't enough. This is what it sounds like. It includes Halo 1-4. But as we've seen, that's not exactly a straightforward proposition. For instance, this is Halo 3, but so is this, and this, and this. So when they did the box set, there were some notable omissions, but thankfully not very many. Halo 1 here is the US 3-song version. Halo 2 is just the non-remastered Pretty Hate Machine. Halo 3 is the US 12-inch edition, and Halo 4 is the US 12-inch and CD version. This box set comes really close to having every song from this era, which makes it the simplest way of collecting most of the songs, but not all of them. Which I can imagine for people who want this set but also want all the songs, that's extremely frustrating. However, it is missing the Head Like a Hole Opal mix and the Down in It demo, as well as the remastered Pretty Hate Machine. It also tends to go for over $130 on the aftermarket, which isn't that bad, so whether you decide this is the best route to go is entirely up to you. Finally, in 2018, Craft Recordings reissued both the remastered and original versions of Pretty Hate Machine in the US on CD and in the EU on 12-inch. Part 5. Make It Make Sense. I already explained the possible reasons that the American 12-inch releases of Halo 1 and 3 are the way they are. As for the international versions, I wanted to try to figure out why the releases differ so wildly. I already explained why the US 12-inch and CD of Head Like a Hole were different from one another, so I'll move on to Sin and talk about things in chronological order again. The only reason I can imagine that the Sin American cassette version only has 2 songs is that it was cheaper to use cassettes that had less tape in them. Much like with the US releases, the UK versions of Halo 1 and 3 kind of play off of each other. The Terrible Lie remixes and Down in It demo are included on the UK Halo 1, but not on any of the UK Halo 3 editions. Why, though, don't they include the Slate and Soil mixes of Head Like a Hole? I guess Trent had less control over which versions were on the US release because he said that it included some boring mixes. It seems like Clay, Copper, and Opal were the alternate mixes preferred by Trent. Or at least Clay and Copper, because they're on every version of Head Like a Hole, with the exception of the Australian release. The only explanation I have for the Australian track listing is that it was seen as more of a sampler, but I'm just speculating at that point. Again, with the UK Sin editions, I can only speculate why the track listings are like that. The 7-inch makes sense that it only has 2 tracks, because historically that's how 7-inch singles are, and it made more sense to include Get Down Make Love as a B-side rather than another version of Sin. Point is, ultimately, there's no way to collect every track without importing from other countries. And that's a segue into the next section. Part 6, the finding aid, or this probably could have been an iceberg video. Think of this section as like when you're putting in the password in Mega Man X and you want the password that gives you everything except the Hadouken or the one that takes you to the end with no health tanks. It's like that. I think the easiest way to explain this is to separate things into levels of collector, not as a value judgment, but just levels of how picky and or broke you are. Level 0. You don't have to do any of this. You can listen to all of these songs on YouTube or any other streaming service probably. Look, I made a playlist, but if you've made it this far, you probably need more plastic bullshit taking up space in your house. So, level 1 is for those of you that aren't absolute freaks but have deeper pockets. The easiest way to get most of these 35 songs is to buy the Halo 1 through 4 vinyl box set, like I said above. If you just want most of the songs, just get the box set. If you want to go a little further, get the remastered Pretty Hate Machine. And if you want the Opal mix of Head Like a Hole, grab the UK CD or 12-inch. Or either of the Australian pressings. The box set's also missing the Down in It demo, but the UK 12-inch of that one includes it. If you just want to own every song physically and money isn't a concern, that's the simplest way of doing it. And you can get all of them on vinyl if that's your preferred format. Level 2. Not all Halos, most songs, budget conscious, and not picky about format. The nice thing about collecting 9-inch nails is that it doesn't need to break the bank. Most of this stuff is pretty readily available and not very expensive. So for this level, we'll say get any pressing of Pretty Hate Machine that you can find. Get the US CD version of Head Like a Hole. For the Opal mix, get the Head Like a Hole UK 12-inch or CD, or the Australian CD or cassette. Why you would get the Australian cassette, I don't know, but that is an option. And then get Sin, basically any version that has all 4 of the songs, so the US CD, 12-inch, or the UK CD. Level 2.5, it's just level 2, but you get all the songs. Just add the remaster of Pretty Hate Machine. Level 3. This is for those of you who want all Halos, most songs, and are budget conscious. For this level, you'll want to go for Down in It, which is Halo 1. US pressings are cheaper if you are in the US. If you're not in the US, they might be more expensive because of import costs. Halo 2, Pretty Hate Machine, any pressing that you can find, and then if you count the remasters as separate songs, any pressing of that. Halo 3, Head Like a Hole, US pressings. Halo 4, Sin, US CD or 12-inch, or the UK CD. For this level, the only song that you'll be missing is Opal. Of course, if you just want all the Halos, then get any pressing for any of these. When I say any pressing in a budget conscious category, it's your budget. So if you can spend 40-something bucks for the US 12-inch of Sin instead of spending $5 on the CD, then you do you. It's your collection and your budget, and I'm not your mom. So let's move on to level 4. This one's going to be the most comprehensive because you're going to get all the Halos, all the songs, and it's budget conscious. Halo 1, Down in It, any pressing. Halo 2, Pretty Hate Machine, any pressing. The remaster, any pressing. Halo 3, Head Like a Hole. Get the US and UK versions. It doesn't really matter as long as you can get the Opal mix, but you have to get the UK version for that because that one never came out in the US. And then Halo 4, Sin, US CD 12-inch or UK CD. Now, level 5 is going to be for the real sickos. Basically, if you want every song, every Halo, and every different cover art. Get level 4. But then add the Halo 3 UK 10-inch for the unique cover on that one, and the UK pressings of Sin because the cover art over there was black instead of red. And fuck it, get the Halo 1 through 4 set too, who gives a shit at this point? Shit, if you hate jewel cases and love digipacks, just get the Pretty Hate Machine Remaster CD and Sin UK CD, and you're fucking golden. You could also get the long box variant for Pretty Hate Machine. It's the same album, but its case is long. That's it. Part 7, conclusion. That's it for the 9 Inch Nails Halo 1 through 4 era that ran from 1989 to 1990. Next time, we're going to be tackling Halo 5 through 6. That one should be much shorter, and we'll tackle the Downward Spiral era after that. Subscribe, hit the bell so you can see future videos in this series. Like the video, let me know if I missed anything in the comments, or if you already own all of these releases. Thanks for watching, bye!